Okay, so in this week's video I want to talk about learning from your mistakes and embracing failure. I think as a society now, generally speaking, we are terrible at accepting our mistakes and our failures and therefore learning from them. And I'm going to kind of look at a very generalistic view of social media and show how I think that ties into things. So a lot of people now sort of portray the perfect life, and this has now even got to a point where people aren't uploading photos because they're worried they're not going to perform as well as previous photos on Instagram. So not only are we not showing our mistakes and failures, we're not even showing the general day-to-day stuff that we get up to. And I realise this might be a very niche group, but I do think it filters down through users, especially on a platform such as Instagram, which is in this day and age so popular. So there's this intense pressure upon people to show this perfect life, and perfect lives A, don't exist, and B, if they did, they don't contain any mistakes or failures. So these mistakes and failures that we all make on a day-to-day basis are not being considered. We're not embracing them, and I think that's a really bad thing, because by not embracing them, we're not learning from them. And if there's one really important thing about mistakes, it is that we should learn from them. Now, I'm by no means perfect. I've made so many mistakes, both in my personal life and in my work as well. And a few years ago, I started going through this process every time I did a job or completed a project, where I'd do a few things and I'd learn from any mistakes I made. And what I realised then was it would help me work better next time I was to do a similar job or project. And I think this learning has really helped me improve as not only a person but as a filmmaker and a photographer as well, which is really important for obvious reasons. But because people are neglecting to embrace mistakes and failures, they aren't learning. And you can see how important learning from mistakes is just by looking for quotes about this on the internet, and I'll put a few up now. So I fail and make mistakes a lot, and I have done throughout my working life. I've made bad decisions, I've not planned properly, I've forgotten to do things, I've done so many things that I look back on and think, well, why did I do that? And I don't necessarily regret any of them, and regret's something I'll probably come on to in a video at a later time, but I am really conscious of learning from them. And this is kind of the process that I go through to learn from my mistakes. And it is really important that we learn from them, and I'll go over that shortly. But I just wanted to give some examples first off of mistakes I've made that I have learned from but have been really frustrating at the time. So this is an image taken in the Lake District last year, and were it not for the fact that it's out of focus, it would be one of my favourite pictures I think I'd ever taken. It was an amazing morning, as you can see by the picture, but if you zoom in, it's plainly not in focus, or there's some camera shaking. I actually think that it was a problem with my camera, because sort of 1 in 4 shots were like this, and whilst that isn't necessarily something I can blame myself for, what I should have done at the time is check the images are sharp, and if they're not, retake them, because it would have been really easy to do there and then. It was only when I looked at my computer and realised that this was the case. So that's something that I've learned from. Another example was I was in Norfolk recently, as you may have seen in one of my recent videos, and I filmed a load of drone footage in day one at Happisburgh, which I've since been told is actually pronounced Haysborough. Thanks John Gibbs. And I recorded a lot of drone footage going up and down the old sea defences and around the lighthouse. It was really, really good footage, and I looked at it on my laptop last night. I was really pleased with it, and stupidly I didn't back it up, and for whatever reason it got wiped from the memory card, never to be seen again. So I definitely learned something there. Other times I've been on shoots and I've forgotten batteries or memory cards, but it's the kind of thing that I only let happen that one time, and I learn from it and I progress. So this is the process I go through to learn from the mistakes that I've made. So firstly, what I do whenever I come back from a shoot or whenever I finish a project or something like that is I analyse that project and I make a list of what went well and what went not so well. And I think it's important to cover both of those, because the what went well can fill you with a sense of pride, and it can at a later time show you how you've improved throughout the year. I think it's really important to kind of like give yourself a pat on the back for those victories and those achievements. And then what didn't go so well is any mistakes that I made during the project or anything that didn't go quite to plan, and I use that to kind of plan what I'll do next time. So I look at what's not gone so well and I sit and I think, right, how can I change that next time? So for example, when I've forgotten stuff on a shoot, I've now got a checklist and I make sure everything's checked off and in my bag before I go. Going back to a later shoot photo, what I do now is while I'm in the field and I'm shooting, I make sure I check and zoom in on each image and make sure that it's as sharp as I'd expect it to be. Back to the drone footage I spoke about as well, I will now back up everything from all my memory cards every time I come back from a shoot, whether that be in the morning, the afternoon, the evening, whenever. It gets backed up to my storage device as soon as I can, just to remove that sort of margin of error for losing it. There's then that period of learning from the retrospective look at the mistakes that I might have made and the planning a way around and avoiding them in the future. And I think considering all those things for a bit of time and actually planning forward into your life and putting these things in place actually really prevents you from making them again. If you go somewhere and you forget a memory card, you can pretty much guarantee that if it's a great place and you would have got great photos, you're not going to do that again. That happened to me a long time ago, and yeah, it's never happened again since, because I was so annoyed with myself for what I potentially missed on that day. So I think that whole process of outline just needs repeating, like I say, after every project or after every shoot, and by doing that you really kind of over time improve. And I think that is the main aim of this video. It's about improvement, it's about accepting your mistakes and learning from them. I think acceptance is probably the most important thing, and also one of the hardest things to do. And without the acceptance, without accepting and taking in that yes, I've made a mistake, yes, I've failed, I don't think that the learning process is complete, and I don't think that you can actually learn from them and make yourself better without holding your hands up and saying, yeah, I messed up there. If you're doing a shoot from a client and something's gone wrong, it's very hard to get that back. It's very hard to dig your way out of, and that digging can actually make the situation worse if you just sort of hold your hands up straight away to the client and explain what's happened, or to whomever it may be, or even just to yourself. That initial yes, I've made a mistake is a lot easier to do at that point than later in the day when you've tried to maybe cover it up. And the reason I think this is the hardest bit is because it is us personally spending time with our weaknesses, which feels inherently uncomfortable. It takes a real strength in character to be able to accept every single mistake and every single failure that you make, and it takes a lot of work, and it's something that I've been spending a long time trying to do, and it's still very difficult, because in that heat of the moment when you've got that horrible feeling inside you that, yeah, I've done something wrong here, it's really hard to just sort of be in that moment and just sort of think through the situation clearly and just sort of say, yes, I've made a mistake. And everyone's had that feeling, everyone's been there, but it's how you respond to it. It's that, like I say, that strength of character to respond to it, to learn from it, and really try and sort of improve yourself and improve your learnings and get better going forward on shoots and in life. It's all linked together. It's linked to that acceptance, that learning, and I think that is probably one of the most important things in life, is to learn from your mistakes. That's why all those quotes are out there. That's why so many people sort of hang on to them and read into them. It's because they're right. it might be difficult to do, but I think it's really, really important. And going back to the start of the video when I spoke about social media, I think that's one of the reasons why it is so important, is because that everyone's got this seemingly perfect life. Not many people are sharing their weaknesses, not many people are sharing their failures and their mistakes. But I think the more we tend towards doing that, the easier they become to accept and the easier it becomes to grow. And growth is something I've really looked at on a personal level over the last 12 months, and becoming the best version of myself possible is now really important to me. I think I spent too long not living my life as I wished to, and this just forms an element of that. So I think going forward, a really good piece of advice is to share failures, and the quicker we are to share our failures, the quicker we are to learn from them. And that sharing of failures too will also help other people learn from them and hopefully prevent them from making similar mistakes. You don't necessarily have to make a mistake to be able to learn from it. You can also learn from other people's mistakes, and the more we share, the more we learn from each other's mistakes, the more we grow, and hopefully the happier and more fulfilled in life we are. So I hope that's been useful. I really kind of am pushing towards people trying to share their mistakes and failures and learn from them. As I've said, I don't know how many times in this video, I must have said it a dozen times, so hopefully that message has sunk in a bit. But yeah, I really sort of implore you to embrace failure. Once you get over the initial uncomfortableness of it, you'll be really glad that you did. So thanks very much for watching anyway. Please subscribe to my channel, please like the video and share any comments you have on it. And if you want, in the comments box below, share any recent mistakes or failures that you may have made, and hopefully the other people watching this video can learn from that too. Until next time, bye. In a strange twist of fate, I've come out just now to take some drone footage to accompany the video, and rather ironically, given what the video is about, I've not checked my drone battery and had about 4 minutes of flight time on it. So I've not succeeded in what I was looking to do at all, which is quite apt really. So I think it's time to call it a day, learn from this, check the drone battery next time, and yeah, we'll leave it there.